Adam, you with us or?
I'm with you. I'm just prepping myself mentally, spiritually.
Cool. All right, we run.
Yes, sir.
You ready?
Yeah, let's go.
So, Adam, I think you pride yourself on being a very good buyer's agent. What would you say the most common mistakes are when working with buyers?
It's a good question. In my experience, I think the most common mistake is buyers underestimating the importance of having their financing mechanics figured out before they go in the process. Ultimately, it is a seller's market because demand still outstrips supply. So when you get to that point where you found your dream home, there's going to be multiple buyers inquiring and offering on it. And from a seller's perspective, they consider the price, obviously, vacancy terms, but also pricing mechanics. So if you're in the conversation without, say, your pre-approval already, it's going to be a disadvantage. And I think buyers don't appreciate how important that is.
And I think a lot of buyers, they don't realize there's 3 or 4 other buyers looking for the same property as them. And often, how many times have we been in a situation where we go to best and final offers, almost like a bidding war in a controlled format?
Yeah.
And it's whoever has their finances in place. If it's the same offer, the seller's going to go with that person. And I think what's often ignored as well is even cash. Like, people think cash is king, but if your cash is tied up in a fund or in another country, there's still a process to get the cash in the country as well,
100%.
which sellers will also inquire on.
Yeah, and if you look at the recent reports, June 2024 for the Springs, 17% of buyers were cash. So that's 83% of buyers that are going to go through the financing mechanics and they'll be looking for a mortgage, which is also helpful. And one of the reasons why I think we joined Aspas, right? We have a lot of the sort of search process internalized from brokers such as us, obviously, and then the conveyancing team and then mortgage advisors.
Absolutely. It's a one-stop shop, Aspas, and it's important for clients to have that trust in you and be able to come to you for all their needs. And I think it's on the broker as well to manage those expectations. As you said, it's such a fast-moving market. You need to inform that. You need to get your finances sorted and ready to go. And I think that's why with Aspas, having that knowledge that our mortgage brokers give us, for example, Fab, that they can give pre-approvals in 48 hours, how important has that been in some of our deals and getting the buyer over the line and securing their dream home?
100%. The one-stop shop adds so much value because having communication between all the parties, the mortgage advisors, the conveyancing team, the broker, the buyer and the seller, it just helps get a smooth and easy transfer.
Just leading on from Pratik's comments about conveyancing, I think it just highlights the importance of having that team as part of the process. You know, ultimately, when someone buys a home, it's likely the biggest investment they're going to make their entire life. And the same way, you know, you have a Formula One team, you have the driver, but then you have the mechanics, the electrical team, I don't know what the guy's called, head coach, what's his name, Chris Horner, Wolf Toto, whatever his name is. But you need every part of the team working efficiently to get you from A to B, where obviously is transferring the home successfully from the seller to buyer. So, yeah, obviously conveyancing is paramount.
It's a great analogy, and it's just a division of labour. The brokers should be brokering, not conveyancing deals, because that takes away from their time and helping the client get the best result in the market, which is an extremely competitive market, and it lets the conveyancers do what they need to do. It's important.
I think a lot of buyers don't understand, like in the UK where we're all from, when you buy a property, it's non-negotiable that you'll be working with a solicitor after for the paperwork, right? But here, I think some people still don't understand why they need to be paying conveyancing, and they expect us as brokers, a part of the 2% fee, to be doing the conveyancing as well. But we're there to broker the deal, to bring seller and buyer together. After that, yes, we're still going to be there, or a good broker will still be there for the length of that relationship. But the conveyancing team is the one that handled it from start to finish. For sure. So many things can go wrong. So many hurdles can come up from getting the right bank things in place, liability letters, clearance letters, etc. as well, NOCs, like you might have fines on the property. Like, whilst we're there to help and support as well, we don't have the time or capacity. That's why there's a whole other department. That's why there is a fee for the process as well. There's a separate cost to that as well. And buyers need to understand that that cost is an insurance to guarantee that you're getting the property at the end of the day.
Yeah, 100%. So the other day I had a question from one of my clients. We just purchased a townhouse in Palmyra, Arabian Ranches, and they said to me, Adam, obviously London's so different to Dubai. How do you add value to a property in this market? And it's a great question. They were saying, do we add landscaping? Do we add a pool? Do we open up the kitchen? What is the best value driver in this market? And I think it's fair to say there's 2 immediate value drivers, and it's vacant on transfer and turnkey. And turnkey being neutral tones, minimalistic, clear square lines, so that the buyers can sort of just bring their suitcases and unpack and live into the property. What do you guys think? How do you think you can add value in this market?
I think you're absolutely right. I think with how many buyers that are coming from Europe at the moment, they've got that Western style preference. And how many times do you speak to a buyer and they're looking for something that's nicely upgraded? I haven't worked out the percentage, but I'd say at least 60% of my last clients have all been saying, what's upgraded that I can move into, no hassle. So I think investors who are clever, buying these properties that are standard, obviously handed over a majority from Amar Communities standard, and adding that Western touch, putting a pool in, changing the flooring, adds so much value, and there's a huge premium to be made. And I think we can see how many people are in the flipping business right now in different communities, Springs, Meadows, Arabian Ranches, even Dubai Hills. People are adding renovations and selling it for a really good profit.
And you want to keep that minimalistic balance, as you said, Adam, because I think when you're entering a home as a buyer and it's an upgraded property done by someone else, it's never going to be entirely to your taste.
Right.
I always say if there's about 70 to 80% of the works that you actually like, take it, because the flip side of that is doing a complete renovation job by yourself for 3 to 6 months, sometimes 9 months in some cases as well. And I think a lot of buyers underestimate the process. Even if you do have a contractor that's handling everything, you still got to be there to decide, do you want to open the kitchen? How do you want to design the kitchen? Or how do you want to do the flooring? How many windows are you adding? And quite quickly you're visiting, kitchen shop on the weekend, door shop on the weekend. It all adds up. And the question is, do you have the time in your everyday lives to actually manage that process versus a property there ready to go that is to your style and taste?
Yeah, it's not an easy process at all. And I think you're right. Buyers do underestimate that. And again, it's the value of a SPAS that we have 2-3 really great renovation companies that we can recommend to clients that are proven at all different levels of price point as well. Because if you're a family, buyer, and you've got a kid, you can't be looking after renovation, especially that there aren't that many great reputable renovation companies in Dubai.
Yeah.
Sometimes the quality isn't that good. So you need to be there on site 2-3 times a week, checking on what's being done. That's what I hear a lot from my clients. They have to be there checking on what the contractor's doing. So
100%.
it is a question of value to them.
100%. One of the things that Adam said as well about turnkey properties, a lot of times when I'm about to value a property and I hear about upgrades, you get a bit worried about whether or not they're going to be to the taste of the market or going to be really quirky, unique upgrades that a lot of people will be thinking, okay, cool, I might be paying a 500,000 dirham premium for this property, but then they've got to take into account how much money they have to change just to take it back to scratch or make it to their own style. So it's a very fine line between making sure it's turnkey, like you guys said, minimalistic design, neutral colors as compared to quirky colors, and something that might only fit your lifestyle but not to the other person's lifestyle who's buying your property.
Absolutely.
Just like leading on from that, obviously Pratik, number one broker, North H2 or H1, sorry, got my maths wrong, 2024. You clearly have an understanding of value and price. In your experience representing buyers, what do you think is the best value for price in terms of location in this market?
So I specialize in the Dubai land area, or people know it as the Al Qudra corridor. And if you take a property, if you take a community, for example, Arabian Ranches 2, it's about 15 minutes away from the famous Dubai Hills, which everybody's going crazy over right now. But for the same price, for example, 7 million dirhams, you're probably going to get 1,500 square foot extra in built-up area. Even if you don't want to spend that amount of money, but you still want to get Emaar, which is obviously the most prestigious developer in Dubai, you can get the same quality home, same quality community, same price, same BUA, but you're going to get it for maybe 1 million dirhams less. So for a lot of young families that are looking in Dubai right now, I think the Dubai land area, if you look at Mudon, Town Square, Al Waha, Mira Oasis, the price per square foot is massively outperforming the key communities like Emirates Living or Jumeirah Park right now.
And I think that is why you need to be a more well-rounded broker, because it's where Adam and I specialize in Springs, Lakes, Meadows, which is, the most central gated communities in Dubai. More than ever, we're seeing buyers open up to potentially going further out. I mean, when we were looking together, my client, he inquired me in the Springs, and we ended up in Al Waha, completely opposite end of the spectrum. Why did he do that? Because he got significantly more value for money. And I think if you zoom out in the long run of where is Dubai going to go to next, where we're at now, the suburbs don't exist. The metro going further out than Sheikh Zayed Road doesn't exist. One day when they do eventually expand that and it allows accessibility to flow better, then the price is going to go up even more. So what is currently deemed now further out, one day it will still be quite central.
100%. That's the difficulty that I used to have when I was selling in Arabian Ranches 2 and the surrounding communities, that people would say it's so far away from the main infrastructure points. But if you look at the new airport that's coming up, and Palm Jebel Ali, which is only 20 minutes away via Emirates Road from Arabian Ranches 2, from Damac Hills, it's going to make it a lot more accessible in the future. And I think people are now kind of starting to understand that Dubai can't just keep building around Jumeirah or where the marina area is right now. 100%. They're going to have to start building outwards, and then in the next 10 years, somewhere like Arabian Ranches 2 again is going to be very close to even the marina, but then downtown, the airport, Palm Jebel Ali. So, yeah.
I think that's a cultural thing in Dubai. I mean, like in London, when you're 45 minutes to over an hour away for a
100%.
journey, it's normalized. I mean,
Yeah.
that's even
Yeah.
deemed as good.
Yeah.
But in Dubai, everyone's obsessing over that 5, 10,
5,
15
10 minute
minutes on their
journey,
journey
100%,
as
yeah.
well. And I
TikTok
think that's the
brains.
change we will see over time, that buyers will change their attitude towards traveling, especially
100%.
again, if there is a metro system in place where
100%.
you don't have to drive in traffic in the
Yeah.
early hours of the morning.
I agree. I
Just,
think
sorry, going off to you.
I think you're right. I think there will be a change and shift. Like I was in the UK just 2 weeks ago, and I was driving 45 minutes. Didn't think, second thought. And as soon as you come back to Dubai, it's like, oh, that's 30 minutes away.
Yeah.
Should I
Yeah,
drive
yeah.
there? But it's not that bad. So I think once people do have that mental shift, and there is a trend anyway to buyers looking for better value for money, and those areas are, like you say, in Al Qudra corridor and further out. I think that's also a testament to the sustainability of this market. I think a lot of people at a surface level will look at, oh, when's the price going to go down? The market's due to crash, etc. And at a surface level, I have a lot of conversations. Oh, the market's being propped up by Russian buyers, Chinese buyers, and yes, these guys are still purchasing. But if you have a look at, for example, our H1 report, the top 10 nationalities, there is no Chinese, there is no Russians there.
Yeah.
The top buyer is actually British buyers,
Yeah.
and they were also the top buyer at the end of last year as well. So
Yeah.
it is a very sustainable market. You've got people from France, Netherlands, Turkey, Indian buyers still very at the forefront. So I think if you look at those factors, macro factors, micro factors, this market is very sustainable. And you look at UBS's report of where they rank Dubai in the world as a fairly valued real estate market, one of the fairest values. So I think that's another thing you need to bear in mind when you're speaking to these clients, and people are, the price is due to crash, this, that. Actually have a look at the data.
Yep.
There's nothing to suggest it is going to crash. I don't think it's sustainable at 20% per year on average.
100%.
But for sure, there's still a lot of opportunity out there, and people say, when is the best time to buy? Is now still a good time to buy? I think that's something we'll touch on. The best time to buy was COVID. The next best time to buy is now.
And I think the converse to that is what is the other option? It's renting.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the rental market, I keep having this conversation every year with buyers, and it's not changing at the minute because I think even now more than ever, people are getting stuck in the rental trap.
Yeah.
And it's giving yourself enough time to make the jump from a rental to buying your own home as well. If you're only giving yourself 2 to 3 months because your contract's coming up for renewal, that's not enough time to search for the right property and then transfer the right property, maybe do some renovations as well and move in before the end of your contract. And I think that's where people, they come and say, yeah, I don't want to rent anymore. The cost of renting's higher than a mortgage. I want to buy a property. Well, so in some cases, you have to look up to 12 months in advance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In communities like Lakes, where Adam and I specialize, there's only a handful of properties on the market that are actually genuine sellers.
Yeah.
If you specifically want the Lakes because your kid's going to school at DIA, you might have to be waiting 12 months. You might have to
100%.
take on a tenant serve notice. You might have to start that search 12 months ago.
Yeah.
As Jordan said, if you've missed out on that already, the next best time is now. You need to be very forward thinking in this market
Yeah.
because it does change by 2% every month in some
Yeah.
cases.
Yeah.
It is going to continue to rise because more people are acknowledging that they don't want to be putting rent into someone else's pocket. They want to be saving and having equity in the bank.
100%. One thing that I always ask people is how long do you actually expect yourself to live in Dubai? Because if it's going to be 5 to 10 years, then you have to think you can either pay off your own mortgage and put money towards an investment over that 5 to 10 years. Otherwise, you're only paying off someone else's mortgage, right? And I understand it can be a daunting aspect to think that I can buy a property in Damac Hills and 1 year later it might be worth a little bit less. But the truth is you only lose money on the property if you decide to sell it.
100%,
So if you buy in a community that you're pretty confident that it's going to have sustainable growth in the long term, then I think it's a safe investment. And over 5 to 10 years, there's only one direction I think the property prices are going to go in Dubai.
But even if it didn't go down, or if it did,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Only if you come to sell. So if you can
Agreed.
afford the
Exactly, yeah.
monthly payments as you can afford your rent as well,
Yeah.
like why not just buy a property and forget
100%.
about what happens in the market? You can't time the market, but if it works for you, I mean, I was speaking to a seller the other day. He said, I don't care what happens in the market. If it's time to make a new purchase, then that's the time to sell for me
Yeah.
to make an upsize. So
Smart seller.
That's what that's what one of my buyers said to me. He said, Adam, ultimately there's only 2 days you control: the day you buy and the day you sell. And ultimately, I need to buy it now. So the day you sell, markets are cyclical in nature. We'll ride the wave and let's see what happens. So
Exactly.
that's what we can do. I had a question though. Obviously, Jordan, you've represented buyers all over the town. You closed the Springs whilst I was in the UK. But one topic that's quite prominent now, I think, amongst brokers more commonly, is that is there now a role for a buyer's agent? And you've represented an international buyer, you've done the tour of them. Say someone's from the UK is watching this, they don't know anything about Dubai real estate. How would you advise a brand new buyer, and what does that process look like for a brand new buyer coming to Dubai? How would you navigate that with them?
It's a great question. I think that's a broader topic in itself about buyer's agents. Obviously, I think that's definitely something, you know, close to your heart about how buyers should only work with one agent.
Yep.
And obviously, this is an extremely competitive market. I think buyers are entitled to go and browse the market because there are some options that are only exclusive with other brokerages. But that being said, there is a place for a buyer's agent. It's about finding the right buyer's agent, and it's important because if you find someone that's got a great knowledge of the market, they know different areas within Dubai, they know the different price points, they're at a good brokerage, they've also got a good background. You know, we've all four of us here have got great backgrounds from London in finance. You know, we know what we're talking about. So, for example, this UK buyer, when they inquired, they said to me, "Oh, Jordan, we inquired with 4 to 5 other agents. You're the one that got back to us promptly with good responses."
Yep.
And, you know, I actually set out a plan for them before they even touched down. I sent them a Word document saying, "This is what we're going to see.
Yep.
Send me the links of the properties you've been looking at. I'll reach out to those other agents, work out if it's a real seller, if it's a real listing, what the price is, what the tenancy situation is. I'll do all the hard work and running around for you. So when you touch down here, you're here for 2 weeks. The viewing schedule's in place. We do the rounds, we second view the ones you want to do, and then we go into pricing negotiations. I've got the data available to me on the pricing transactions in different communities. Even if I don't specialize there, I can use my knowledge to negotiate for you. And ultimately, I think the biggest thing about being a buyer's agent is I solely represent you. I will go to war for my client to get the best result. We love it. I love a good negotiation where you're going up against a seller's agent and you're trying to get the best result for your client.
100%.
And when I'm not representing the seller, my best interest with my client. So I think that is the soul or the core value for a buyer's agent. And I think just to touch on your question about the process of what it looks like, I think the real estate market here is a bit more simple. You know, where Dubai is actually a city, you know, there's certain communities where townhouse, villa communities, you have a budget, do the rounds in those communities. Like I said, most of them are 20, 25 minutes apart from each other. Do the rounds, have a look, narrow it down, do the second viewings, and then it's just a case of, you know, what your finances. These guys were cash. Cash was very easy to get here. Put it off in, negotiate, and tie up the deal. And then you pass it to conveyancing.
When you've got a broker like that, why would you work with someone else? Someone that can streamline the process that quickly. And I think it's also a testament to the Espace marketplace, because when, as you said, Jordan, when you're lining up these viewing tours, a lot of the feedback I get from clients that I'm meeting that have worked with other agents from other agencies is the amount of stock we can show in our open house events, even on the weekend. I mean, I've just come from viewing 8 properties back to back and across different communities as well, all that are open as well, all ready to view. Like some of the very basics of this job, other agents aren't doing. Like 100%. Some of them are turning up and they can't even access the property. It's like, for us, this is just normalized. But again, it's a testament to having the right stock in place to allow that process to be streamlined.
Absolutely.
100%. Even how you said that you took your buyers to 8 different properties, I think a lot of agents in this market will take, on a first viewing, they'll take the buyer to one house. But what I always like to do is take people to maybe 2 or 3 different properties across different communities, obviously handpicked by us after understanding their criteria. Maybe they're a bachelor, maybe it's a family, maybe it's a young couple looking to start a family, they want to be close to schools. You can take them to different communities, show different properties in different areas. And at the end of the meeting, at the first set of viewings, I'd like to sit with them, have a coffee, talk about what they do like, what they don't like, and then come up with a real plan on what we concentrate our efforts on going forward.
Ultimately, you just need to add value to the client.
Yeah,
What can you show them? How can you do it in a timely manner? Can you listen to their needs, what they actually want, what their requirements are? If you can actually drill down to what they're looking for, you can streamline it so much quicker, especially with now we've been in the market for 2-3 years, each of us. We've got such a good understanding of the market, such a deep level that once I speak to a buyer for 10, 20 minutes, ask the right questions, I've got a good idea of what I can show them, what they can like.
Yeah.
It makes the process a lot easier for them.
100%.
But you do need to give them something to think about sometimes. And I remember clients I was working with that just arrived from Switzerland. I met them at Saturday night around 6 p.m. in Arabian Ranches. And we viewed one property because I had an open house on it. And they said to me, "You're the first broker today that we've met that hasn't asked us to make an offer." I said, "You've just got here from Switzerland. Like, you don't even know Dubai. Like, we need to go on the journey and the process to see what you like."
100%.
I was like, "Have you even heard of like Victory Heights, the Meadows?" And they was like, "No." I was like, "That's why you're going to work exclusively exclusive with me now because I'm going to take you through this and we're going to understand what you
Through the
truly
process,
want.
yeah.
Yeah.
Some buyers don't know what they want.
100%.
Like it's
100%.
like
People
going to the
buyers.
doctor and saying, "Oh, I've hurt my knee." You don't know what's wrong with the knee.
Yeah,
You need to
yeah.
probe it.
100%.
Just to like follow on from Jake's point, obviously in our experience, you know, representing so many buyers, how many of them say, I want to start off in the Springs and end up buying in Arabian Ranches? You know,
100%.
the buying process is a process of discovery, which requires active listening. And I think ultimately, you know, we always say it, you can't accidentally buy a home, put your trust in me, let's go through this process and hopefully reach out happily ever after, right?
And I think you also want a broker on that journey, especially if you're working exclusive as well. When you have that relationship with one another, that trust with one another, you as the broker can say, this is overpriced.
Yeah.
This isn't
Yeah.
a serious
Yeah.
seller.
Yeah.
Ignore this one.
Yeah.
This one's been on and off the market for years. Ignore it. And
Yeah.
that's what other brokers perhaps might mislead that buyer on. And again, if you're in the process and someone's saying to you, no, this one's overpriced, I've got 3 other houses that are transacted $500,000 less than that.
Yeah.
Giving that evidence as well. It's building that rapport with these buyers.
100%. Even I liked what Adam said about the discovery stage, because a lot of times what you said about agents kind of pushing for an offer straight away, it shouldn't be your job to tell somebody it's the right property. If you can take the buyer through the process of seeing different homes, more than me telling them that you need to buy this property now, they should know that because they've seen everything else, they've seen the data, they've experienced different communities, and they've come to the right conclusion themselves rather than me having to be the pushy salesperson and telling them this is the right home for you, you need to buy it now,
Yeah.
and creating that kind of pressure. It's just not the right way that you want to feel when you're buying a home.
I think we would all agree that obviously if you've done the sort of search right, the offering stage is somewhat seamless, but just shifting the focus to sellers, obviously you all record holders in your various communities. What do you think, if you had to give one tip of advice or one bit of advice to a seller who may be listening now, how would you approach the sales process?
It's the same as I'd say to a buyer. You should go exclusive. Scarcity increases the price. If there's one listing online, one source to get to that property. Again, if you're selling your property in the Lakes, let's say, I have your best interest at heart because I want to sell it for the best price. If I sell it for a higher price, I get more commission
course,
from
yeah.
a financial point of view. But even from just a job point of view, that's my job. That's why I'm here as a broker, to advise you the best I can and get you the best possible price. So exclusivity is absolutely the way to go, because if you've got multiple agents working on a property, the story behind the property that you've created, if you create there's different pricing strategies. If you create a good story behind the property, why the seller's selling, the key features, the benefits of that property, and then you tag another 2 agents on, you need to explain that whole process to them again. You know, things might be lost in communication. They're selling things to different buyers. Sometimes the pricing can be different online. Ruins the whole process completely, and it puts you at a disadvantage as a seller trying to get the best price in what is an incredible market.
100%.
Just to follow on for that, I 100% agree sellers should go exclusive. And the main crux of it, when I explain it to sellers, is that when you have one broker that focuses on getting you the best result, when you have multiple brokers, it becomes who can get the quickest result. And speed does not always equal value.
100%, definitely.
It's a great point.
Excellent.
Thank you. Appreciate it. More than just a pretty face.
So guys, we've been in the industry for, again, 3 years now, 2 different agencies between us. We've seen brokers come and go. We've been in the market for a few years now, 2 different agencies between us. I think we know when someone walks through the door if they're going to make it in the long run or not. What actually makes a bad broker? What are they doing wrong to not make it in this industry?
I think when I joined House & House, obviously you guys were pushing me to come start my journey here. It's another podcast, I think. But when I joined and I was in the training group and, you know, the training went round, everyone saying, you know, what's your motivation for coming here? Why House & House? Why Dubai Real Estate? A lot of people said the show. Oh, I can do that. It looks easy. There's a lot of glitz and glam. And then when I went to my training from Dubai Land Department, again, the trainer went around saying, you know, why are you guys coming to do real estate? I promise you, 95% of that room said money. Like, no, like, hesitation, hands up, yeah, money. And I was like, wow, like, it just seems that there's a lot of almost greediness out there.
100%,
So if you don't have, of course, that there's a great financial gain to be had in real estate. And I think ultimately that's why a lot of people do come here. You know, there's a great chance to make a better life for yourself. Dubai is a great city. There's loads of pros and cons. But if you're coming here to make money, you need to add value to the market. If you're not adding value by putting in consistent hours, doing research, offering buyers what we've just spoke about, then you're doing the same as everyone else. And I think a lot of people just think it's easy. You pick up the phone, you make a few calls, you list a property for sale, a buyer magically appears and buys it. That's just not the case at all.
So what makes them quit? What makes them not last, Pratik?
I think a lot of times people come out here without the right resources behind them straight away. And again, like what Jordan said, the reasoning why they've come out. I mean, in terms of resources, people come out with not enough money to kind of go through the first few months of building a client base. You need to do a lot of prospecting. You need to build knowledge in your community as well. And if you can't get through to the end of that without having to be, again, that pushy buy that we spoke about earlier, the pushy buyer's agent, then a lot of time you're going to repel business rather than attracting it towards you. You need to take the time to go out, understand the market, learn the market, grow as an agent, and then ultimately over the next 1 or 2 years, you will start to see that business piling up almost effortlessly. But going through that initial kind of, like what Jordan said, the greed phase and just looking for money, it kind of repels people from wanting to work with you.
It's a great point about resources because
Yeah.
it is expensive to live in Dubai,
Yeah,
and
100%.
especially if you jump straight into sales. You know, let's say first 2 months you don't do a deal, you do a deal in your third month. That deal, if it's a finance to finance deal, it could take 2 months, and if there's delays, it could take even longer. So it could be 5 to 6 months where you get that first payday.
Yeah.
And obviously, depending on the value of the property, you don't know what your commission will look like. So having resources behind you is actually a really good point. And I think a lot of people underestimate that. Maybe they get caught up in the lifestyle.
Yeah.
Dubai's an amazing city, lots of things to do.
Yeah.
And they blow all their money and then they're on a flight home.
I think you always put it perfectly. Chase trust, not money.
Yeah. Just following on from Jordan's point about Dubai and the lifestyle, I think one of the key points on the reason why we've been obviously able to stay in Dubai is the crowd we're with. And it reminds me of the first day I met Pratik. So obviously, I'm fortunate if I came with Jake. So the idea of being somewhat lonely is not possible.
Non-existent.
But when we were at our first agency, they used to put the call stats up on the big screen. And the day before, I had made the phone twerk. I battered the phone. So I remember coming in thinking, you know what? I can't wait to see my name number one. I come in, look up. It must have said like 56, which is okay. The target was 50, and to hit one call, you need to speak to them for 9 seconds. So you can speak for 3 seconds. It doesn't count.
Yeah.
So to make 50 connected calls, that's at least 200 dialed.
Yeah.
So I had 56. I was like, okay. I said I was second. I was like, wait. Who's beating me? This is my first week. I look up, I see Pratik. And I'm like, who the hell is this Pratik kid? I look across, it said 136. I was like, 136? I was like, whoever this Pratik kid is, I need to speak to him because he's doing something crazy. So I was like, go to the leasing director at the time. I was like, who the hell is Pratik? I need to know how he's done this.
He's cheated.
Yeah. Like, that can't be normal. Like, what's he done? And he said, he's that guy over there. So I go over, introduce myself, hi, my name's Adam, obviously you're Pratik, I've seen your numbers, like, how have you done that? He's like, bro, came at 7 a.m, had my finger on the dial, as soon as it hit 9 seconds, I hang up, I dialed again, and I didn't leave my seat till 9 p.m. I had my lunch at my desk, I had my breakfast at my desk, I didn't leave the damn seat until 9 p.m. And I was like, you know what, I think me and you are going to be friends.
That's what it takes. I remember like we were leaving at like 8:30 p.m. and Adam was like, look at that guy over there. It was dark, no lights on.
Yeah.
This guy was just staring straight at his screen, just logged in,
Dialed
still
in.
making calls, didn't care what time it was. Like he was adamant to make as many calls as possible. I think that's what people underestimate in the first
100%.
3 to 6 months.
100%.
Forget about what everyone else is doing. Forget about what the buyer has to offer. Just be on the phone, be in the
100%.
office, like learn your product inside out. Don't think about anything else. And I think too many people don't put that intensity at the start, and then they have to make up for it. And some people don't have the time and resources.
Yeah, I still
to.
remember my first day. I was literally behind my computer, and you guys remember the office is quite big, right? So I knew I was the last person, but I thought I was the last person in the office. It's about 8:30. I'm hungry now. I wanted to go home. It's my first day in the office. I stood up to leave, and I looked across the room. I'm seeing someone that's making tons more money, someone that's been in the market for 4 years, still sitting there doing the basics. I had to sit back down. There's no way I was leaving. I was probably the newest agent in the office at the time. So I think to be in the market for a long time, kind of, it gets easier, but you can't let that slip away from you. You can't let the hard work slip away. You have to kind of stay on the ball all year round, realistically. And summer it gets quieter, but you need to be on the prospecting all year round. Otherwise, your pipeline will dry up.
That's an interesting point, because we've been having this debate recently, and I've been saying it's harder when it's easier when you're starting off, and it's easier when it's harder.
100%.
How do you maintain the consistency now when like you're doing deals, like you're not calling out as much, you've got, you know, a pipeline, you've got referrals coming in? How do you maintain that intensity and focus now?
I think simply put, up the intensity, throw yourself in the deep end, just make it harder for yourself. Like human nature is you get comfortable, right? You start getting nice cars, you start having a little bit more disposable income, you can go for nice meals. It's like go back to the bread and butter, you know, make that investment, throw yourself in the deep end, take that extra, you know, mortgage, whatever it may be, and really, you know, push the boat out. As they say, if you want to take the island, burn the boats. Sometimes you just got to do it.
I think as well, accountability.
Yeah.
I think if you've got great self accountability, then that's amazing. But it's not hurtful to have, you know, you guys came out together and then I came, and obviously we're a great friendship group. And I think one of the strengths of having a great friendship group is accountability. And I think it's important to have that. You say, you know, why are you leaving at 5 o'clock?
100%. 100%.
Why aren't you doing this many deals? So I think having that accountability, having people that, you know, want more for you, I think it's a general wider point for life. If you have people that you surround yourself with that want to make you a better person, it lifts you to their level. It doesn't bring you down.
Definitely. I've been there on a Sunday afternoon where I just wanted to get some rest. I've seen that you guys are going to the office on the weekend, and then you almost feel like the odd one out. You feel left out. You think, okay, well, I don't want to do it, but I've got no choice now. And then I think a lot of the days doing the hard work, even when you don't feel like it, a lot of agents kind of start making a little bit of money, and then they only work when they feel like it. And that's when you start to see their performances kind of stagnate. Whereas as a broker in a market, the opportunity that we have right now, you can keep growing, but you have to keep putting that work in.
Yeah. And I think Jake, obviously we're in a group chat together, but Jake always highlights on it, you know, the way you do anything is the way you do everything. And I think fitness is the easiest one we control. We're all in the gym, we're all consistent. And like I said, Jake always bangs on a bit. Like, is good enough? It's like, is this what you want for yourself?
When was good great?
And I think, like, obviously having that pillar of fitness so you can visually see where you're performing at is a great sort of, I don't know how to call it, you know, in bowling when you got those rails, that it keeps you on the straight and narrow, and that discipline, that militance trickles over into the professional world as well.
I think one day, maybe 2 years in the future, we should leak the group chat and just show people what gets.
I remember someone saying, if I die, I either want to die on a treadmill or cold call. Like, what? He said, if I die on a treadmill or cold call, bury me. If not,
What a way to go.
If you see what's in that group chat, you'd think they're not friends.
Yeah, yeah.
Comes
There's a
on,
lot
like
of
I said.
accountability, and sometimes it comes across very aggressive.
It's a really grey area.
I think the trend we're seeing in the market now is where it's maturing. A lot of sellers are buyers at the same time as well. They're upsizing, they're moving to different communities, like their lifestyle is changing and they're looking to go on that journey. And I think marrying the two together is a lot easier said than done,
100%.
especially if you're trying to like buy as soon as you sell your property, and managing that process as well. And I think going back to our earlier conversation, even more reason to work exclusively, because Pratik, you've just had a deal where you sold their property and they bought for you as well. How did that go?
100%. The pressure was high because when people sell their home, they have to negotiate some sort of period or go into rental accommodation for once their property becomes vacant. It's very hard to find a property that's vacant on transfer, right? So these guys, the minute we signed the contract to sell their property, they were on my touch. They wanted to go see properties every single day. We had deals falling through. They were panicking. We had ultimately 9 months until they needed to move out of their home. Thankfully, I was able to find them the property 3 weeks later. We signed the deal literally yesterday. But making sure, again, that you have that communication, you have the understanding of what your clients are after. It's not going to come from speaking to 20 different agents who don't understand your criteria. You need one person that might have already seen your home, sold it, knows it inside out, knows exactly what you're looking for in the next onward purchase, and make sure they find you the right property. Again, they can vet the market, make sure they know what's suitable for you even before you do, and then shortlist maybe 5 or 6 options that you can close on.
I think as well, when you've got an agent that has that appreciation for what you're going through as well, it's a process you're going through together. You're a team, right? And it's not just one agent that doesn't understand what has happened. Oh, I need to buy a home because I've just sold mine. It's like, no, you know they need to move out in 9 months.
Exactly.
You know what they're looking
100%.
for exactly. You've been through the process of going to different communities, nailing it down to Arabian Ranches, right? And it was Savannah?
It was Savannah, yeah.
Yeah,
Savannah.
so you don't just get that from shopping around.
100%. And that's another kind of benefit of working in a big team, in a big community team where you spread across different areas, where you can have a good understanding of stuff that we have on the market, and maybe some stuff that we have access to that we might not have on the market, but another company does. For example, my client was sending me listings from other agencies, but I already knew that the property was rented with no notice served. So before doing the property, it's just not going to work for you. So we can kind of filter out the right and wrong options just from having a good presence in different communities.
And I think even when you get that far into the process of selling someone's home and then buying the next one as well, I think conviction is a big part in negotiations as well. If you have an agent that genuinely believes what you're looking for, this is the property for them, and again, they've gone through the process of selling the home, you know how important it is for them to buy this property.
100%.
It's not like you've just had one interaction and then now you're making an offer. It's like, no, you've got someone going to war for you to secure you the best price as well, because
100%.
that's our role, to represent you to the best of our abilities, to
100%.
find the right property and then secure you the best price on the best terms as well.
Yeah.
Chain deals don't happen very often here.
No.
So usually what I say to people is if your property has not transferred when you're selling a house, it's going to be very hard to secure one. But in this case, we actually had one deal fall through. It was with an external agent. The agents weren't able to convince the seller to take the property because the sale would have been subject to successful transfer without leaving the buyers exposed. But when I negotiated this deal in Savannah with the seller, it was pretty easy for me to tell them, look, I'm controlling all parts of that sale. If anything goes wrong, you'll be the first to hear about it. I'm working with the buyer, I'm working with the seller. Even the conveyancing team that we have, it will be the same person that does the conveyancing for your Savannah sale as the purchase or sale of their property as well. So there's complete clarity and open communication and transparency throughout everything that's going on. And that allows you to get a better result for your clients at the end of the day.
Just like you said, just there's trust needed on both sides, and I think it's on the broker to convey to the buyer why you should trust me.
Yep.
It's part of your job, and
Yep.
explain to them what the benefit is going exclusive, like we touched on earlier, why you should only work with one buyer's agent. Touching back on that buyer that did buy from me from the UK and they only worked with me, it got to the point when it came down to negotiations, you know, they were able to give me their best and final offer up front, and I worked backwards from that. And I actually saved them,
Yeah.
I won't say exactly how much, but I saved the money off their best and final offer.
Yeah.
You know, they were delighted.
100%.
So having that freedom as a broker, obviously acting in their best interest, it gives you more authority to make better moves for them on their behalf. And you know
100%.
who's not going to be up.
You don't want to be in a position where there's going to be a negotiation when you're buying a property, right? But you don't want to be the person, like, you want to have open communication and transparency with your buyer. You don't want them to kind of telling you a price, but they can actually go higher. It's better if they trust you enough to tell you what their maximum is, but
Yeah.
they know you're not just going to go and spunk all their cash straight away. I mean, if someone gives me an offer, for example, of 7 million, I'm going to start at 6.5. I don't mind giving a much lower offer, even if it is somewhat offensive to the owner, because I want to get you the best price. I want to find out if there is any wiggle room in that price without revealing all your cards immediately.
You know what's funny? Callum Wood and I just did a deal in Arabian Ranches, and my buyer went to the property with him just to figure out some furnishing things. And he said to me in the office, Adam, you're crazy. You did 30 viewings with this buyer. My buyer told him how many viewings we did. And I remember when I was in the car on like this maybe 4th or 5th round of viewings with this buyer, and we're getting close at decision-making period. I remember going to him, I was like, you know what's crazy? Like, one of these homes is going to be, you know, your future home in Dubai. Like, the memories you're going to build in this home is sort of a bit of a pinch me moment. I think one thing people don't appreciate with this job is, of course, there's big money involved, but I think that's just such a surface level part of the job. And at the end of the day, you know, we really are sort of helping people find their dream homes, and there's something intimate about that decision making, that process that people overlook. And if it was just for the money, then, you know, we could have cruised to partners at financial companies. And I think
100%.
people overlook that, you know, at the end of the day, we are brokers, but we're humans as well. We understand that this is a huge monumental moment for you, and grateful just to be part of the opportunity.
Definitely. I think that's very poetically put. It's very nicely done.
I don't match.
But but yeah, I think, you know, going on the journey is one of the best parts about a deal for me. You know, I love when I get an inquiry and the buyer goes, you know, I've just started my search. That's the best time to speak to a buyer and convey to them what value you can add, and just get them exclusive and take them on that journey. And that way you have control of the situation, but not in a, you know, negative way, in a good way where you can help that buyer, lead them along, and like you say, go on the journey, help them find their future home. And there's a real satisfaction at the end of that when you get something agreed. I had a buyer who inquired with me in November, and they bought in April.
Yeah.
That's a long search
Long
period.
time, yeah.
Don't you ever buy that you're going to their wedding in a month or two?
I do actually. I do have a buyer that I'm flying international for that wedding
Close
as
friends,
well.
little bit.
Where'd you get that level of service in this market?
yeah.
Come to
Yeah,
this
100%.
Best man? Don't much.
No.
Okay.
I've got a good one. So I think a lot of us get attention from friends back at home, like social media and stuff, of like coming into the industry. Number one question I always get asked is, where should I start, leasing or sales? And we've all had different journeys. Adam, what would you recommend?
It's a great question. It's a great question. I think it depends on your long-term objectives. The market's changed since when we started, and the model from leasing to sales does have value because it allows you to build relationships where landlords need you. In the sales market, they don't need you. Maybe they'll be like, you know, Adam, I do want to sell. Hold on, my situation's changed. But if you've got a cash flowing asset, obviously you want to rent it. So the script is pretty straightforward. Hi, Jordan. I understand you own a property in the Springs. Just out of curiosity, is it a personal home or a rental unit? And if it's a rental unit, is it vacant right now? And if it's vacant, obviously they want to work with you. But on the sales side, there's so many different conversations and intangibles that you have to sort of overcome. So in leasing, it allows you the ability to build rapport, build relationships. So when you make that move to sales, you have that sort of little black book that can help you prop up, which is obviously what we did. And, you know, when I first came to sales, I had a property in Hatton, the Lakes, for leasing, and I thought I was going to rent it. It was going to give me cash flow. As I make that move to sales, seller disappeared. 2 months later, he calls me. He's like, Adam, I want to sell it. And long story cut short, we obviously sell it.
Yeah.
Second most expensive home ever sold in Emirates Living outside Emirates Hills. And that only came from the work I did in leasing. And I still have clients now where someone will say, Adam, we're looking for this very specific property. I was like, maybe I know someone. I'll fling a text out and you never know. They come back. And
I think that's the key word you said there is relationships. And I think that's, you know, my story was different. I didn't do leasing. I went straight into sales. But like you say, leasing allows you to build rapport and relationships, which I think is one of the most critical parts of real estate, building relationships.
Yeah.
I know your story is a little bit different. You stayed in leasing for a couple of months. Just going back to you, Adam, I think you were in leasing for a year.
10 months. But
10 months, call it a year. How do you feel, you know, you touched on it with that Hatton deal. Would you have stayed longer in leasing?
The thing about leasing is, and the Dubai laws, is that it's very difficult for new suppliers to come to the market because you have to serve 12 months notice for very specific reasons. And I think I'm grateful we came. I would have liked to have come earlier. But looking at the leasing market now, it's quite difficult to have the opportunities we had. So if I was coming now, I'd go straight into sales. But on reflection, where I was in leasing, I'd built a reputation for transacting at that price point. I think there was value in me staying. I could have cemented my role in that position. As I said, at the time, I was the only one who had Andrew Tate's Dubai Villa live. I moved to sales, he rented it. I was like, sod's law. I was like, this is my 4 million dirham deal gone. But, you know what I mean? When one door closes, another opens, and I don't regret making that decision.
And Jake, what about you? So, you know, you jumped out.
This guy, he said, Jake, I've got 3 clients that want to sell. Do you want to go into sales? And I was like, well, someone's got to do it. It's one of us. And then they all decided not to sell. But I think for me, it's very similar, sales and leasing. Leasing is more intense, it's quicker.
Yeah.
But sales is more of a strategy and a process, as we've been discussing. I think for me, my skill sets were more tailored to going through that journey with buyers and sellers. I think the risk to reward as well, because again, talking about resources that we had behind us, sales is a longer process to get your first deal, and then it transfers as well. You need to be ready that it's a game of patience. You never want to be in a position in sales where you've got personal motivations that you're chasing a deal because you know your money's running out. Like you want to be stable in the right mindset to advise on the deal, right? So for me, I did have 2 months in leasing. I probably would have preferred going into sales straight away just to expose myself more. At the same time, I look back and it was a bit more forgiving in leasing, building up my product knowledge with clients that needed to rent straight away, exposed me to different layouts, exposed me to different communities. It allowed me to see more properties as well. So there's no right or wrong answer. I think you had a similar journey as well. You left after, 3 months of leasing?
Yeah, I left after, we went into sales at the same time, but I think it makes a big difference taking into account what your previous background was before coming into real estate. For example, I did real estate for a very long time in the UK, but it was more like property management. I wasn't doing sales. So like you said, leasing is a lot more forgiving, where you can make those mistakes and learn more about yourself and how you manage yourself before you're about to close that big deal, rather than kind of being pushy or something like that. When it gets to sales, it turns bitter really quickly when you start pushing people away or trying to force someone to take an offer. One thing you have to take into account, which we kind of spoke about, is when you're in the middle of a transaction, you're probably the least important person, because somebody's selling maybe one of their prized assets, and then somebody else is buying a forever home or the home that they're going to raise their children in. And we're just going to make a quick commission and move on to the next property. So being able to manage yourself and stay composed in that, I think leasing is very good for that, because you can make the mistakes, and when you go into sales, you've kind of got the money behind you, but you're also better at sales.
If there's one thing I got from leasing, it's an increased level of grit. I remember being on the surgery table, Jake and I were doing a deal, road backing springs, as low value as you probably can get for our area. And I'm literally getting my head cut open. If you've got a dog, it sounded like a tennis ball getting ripped open by a dog. That's what I'm hearing in the back of my mind. I get a call from the landlord saying, hi, yeah, give the checks back. I've just taken deposit via bank transfer. So if you are on leasing, I promise you it gets worse. But but give it some time, it will get better. So
You're not wrong. My first leasing deal, I had to refund back to the company. We'd already taken the commission.
You're in minus.
I was in minus on the fund. I'm new to the buy. I'm on minus figures on the board. We've literally signed the contract. 1 month later, I've been paid. The tenants are meant to move in about 2 weeks later. The current tenant in the house told me he's going through a divorce. He wants to keep the property for his family. And I've got to break the news now to the tenants that, yeah, we've taken your deposit. We've gone through the whole process, signed the contract. But as per the rental laws, which are going to protect the tenants in the property, you're not gonna be able to move in. And yeah, it wasn't a fun
That's
conversation.
crazy. That's crazy. Well, for me, I obviously didn't do any leasing. I just went straight into sales, and obviously I leveraged.
I was going to say, you can see someone who's not been in leasing and someone who's just gone straight sales, and just a little less age on their face.
Well, yeah, maybe I look a bit younger,
happier.
less grey hairs. But yeah, for me, obviously, I leveraged off your experience. I said, guys, what should I do? And you were still in. I think you just made the jump to sales, and you both said, look, just go into sales. But I think that struck more fear into me. I think that's one of the benefits of jumping straight into sales, because less guaranteed cash flow, takes longer to get money, way more competitive. Like you said, I've got no relationships. I'm just going in there. I've got a phone book and a phone, and I just have to literally pick it up and make relationships from that. So yeah, I remember when on the flight here, that's probably the most nervous I've ever been in my life, that I'm giving up a stable job for a commission only role. Industry I know nothing about. I know the country a bit, but it's a completely new world to me. So yeah, I think that's actually something that helped me, because I was there late nights in the dark, not with you, but I was in the dark. I was making calls to US clients at midnight. Yeah. I look back and it's that was a scary time.
They always say that though, don't they? Like all like our role models or inspiration say, the process is the most fun part. When you're panicking and your back's against the wall is when you're having the most fun. You just don't know it. 100%. I remember saying to Jake, I was like, be past the process. I don't want to be part of the process anymore. I want to be at the finish line. I want to be on the podium. But like when you reflect, you take a moment to sit back and look, like you're grateful and you actually somewhat enjoy those moments of panic.
100%. When you get moments to reflect when you're on holiday and you take yourself away from the hustle and bustle of Dubai, it's not the big deals that you think about. It's the times that you're struggling when you thought, I might have to go home. But if I don't do a deal soon, it's not gonna look too good for me. But 100%, the kind of grind is definitely the part that we're looking back is the most memorable and most enjoyable.
It's easier when it's hard, and it's harder when it's easy.
There's certain songs I literally can't listen to. They give me like PTSD. I'm not even joking.
What, from when you first came?
Champagne Poetry, Jay-Z, Drake. Don't play that.
Don't play that.
I'm gonna throw up.
I remember hearing your guys' journey when you described the first 3 months. I don't think you actually remember the first 3 months. Yeah, that sounded scary. I think I saw like Adam drinking like egg juice and just all sorts of crazy stories. And
the
like,
gods
what
getting
was,
their loaf
what
of
was the
bread.
delicacy? Was it a pancake or something?
Oh, pancake dipped in chicken juice, but there was a.
How can you just nonchalantly say that?
it was one of the best meals ever.
I'm so God honest. God strike me down now if I'm lying. That's the best meal I've ever had.
You know what? 'Cause
Unbelievable.
you don't get it. It was so pure and like.
What's pure?
When we had that deal going on, which fell through because of a bank transfer, which someone beat us to, we was like, we deserve a little Subway. Let's go treat ourselves. And then the deal fell through. And like back then, like you counted like every dirham, you're budgeting hard, like the intensity like that you're working at. You're just in the moment. Of course, pancakes dipped in chicken juice. That was like God sent.
Yeah. That's a funny story.
You'll never get it. You'll never get it. You had it nice and easy,
brother.
Yes.
Easy's harsh. Easy's harsh.
He's done the deal.
Easy's harsh.
Doing a deal
Nothing
every
about real
month.
estate.
Do you know what was crazy? I remember when I first came, the way you painted out real estate to be like, I really thought I was thrown into the deep end, which it is. It is like a shark infested water.
Yeah.
Obviously, seeing now, like you see a lot of brokers, like our office, a lot of people go home at like 6:30. That's just the reality. That's the truth. And I remember, one of the guys I was up against on a co-exclusive property. I thought this guy was like out to get me. Like David Goggins. You think they're like
target on your back.
They're targeting it. So I'm there 8, 9, 10. This guy wakes up at like 12 midnight Dubai. So I was there waiting till midnight in the office just to speak to him. So I thought the other guy was doing the same. It wasn't. He was going home at 6, having a lovely night's sleep. I was setting alarms at 4 a.m. just to speak to him. But that was the difference in the end.
That's what separated you from the competition.
That's why I closed
3-0, right?
3-0.
3-0.
Whitewash.
Not around anymore.
Yeah.